indications that the federal government might take away the payment of salary from the state government. And let's look at even the intrigues involved in payment of salaries. You know that nationally, the minimum wage is 30,000 naira, but in some state, it is yet to implement as such. So, will the federal government implement it holistically, the minimum wage, before the coming of the latest one, whereby top negotiation they are almost through with negotiation on the new minimum wage in Nigeria?
Yes, you know, even before we delve into that matter, payment of salaries have always been the statutory functions of both the federal government, the state, and the local government, because of that constitute the 3 tiers of government that we have. And in the past, payment of salaries have always been taken care of by the federal government, and that has been during the even military era. You realize that allocations were coming from the federal government, and then each state is given the responsibility of overseeing the payment of salaries. And until we came into the democratic era, payment of salaries have always been part of what the federal government have always been doing, and that has always included the monthly allocation to state government. And over the years, every state government is expected to have a salary structure and a salary figure, and that constitutes what is being allocated to the state on monthly basis. Now, the states on its own part, after the Federal Allocation Committee have sat down and have allocated revenues to states,
I think
the state
months.
also sit down. That is the state allocation committee will also sit down and allocate salaries to various MDAs, and then the local government will also sit down and allocate salaries.
Which is done monthly basis.
On monthly basis.
All right.
But over the years, you know, people have simply concentrated on the fact that the Federal Allocation Committee sitting down, usually they sit down as from the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, or 21st, if the conditions do not warrant them to sit within this period. And when they sit down, they look at what has accrued as revenue in the preceding month, and of course share that according to the percentage of allocations. The federal government will take its own allocation and take care of federal workers. The state government will take its own allocation and take care of state workers. So also the local government. And that was the trend of things up until 1990. You know, Babangida administration was the first administration in Nigeria that gave full autonomy to the local government. During his time, he was of the firm belief that local government should have the allocations directly coming from the federal government, with no interference from the state. And that was what has always been done. And in addition to what is allocated to local government, each local government also received what they term as development levy of 1 million naira in addition to what is being allocated for it. That from the federal government, that is meant for development in the local government. They will identify a particular project, and then 1 million naira that is allocated to the local government is meant for that development. It will be road construction on monthly basis. It will be road construction, it will be drainages, it will be any other construction. And that was why at that time you see local government were taking a charge of grade A contracts at local government level. The council chairman can give the contract for the construction road at the time. And that was what has been going on until in 1999 when the issue of joint account came in. But be as it may, now that the federal government is toying the idea, of course it will be good. But again, there are also so many challenges that will come with that, because salary sheets or salary lists at federal level may have been relatively cleaned, but what of at state level? At state level, we have challenges of names. We have challenges of so many inappropriateness that have come to characterize the salary roster of various state government. And
those are the places where the challenges will come from. Of course, those who are saddled with the responsibility of these salaries will have to do a yeoman's job to ensure that only credible workers are captured. Only workers that are genuine are captured. But again, that may also temper with the figures that is going to various states, because it will mean that when you have the genuine figure, it will mean that all the ghost names will have been carefully removed, and monies that are accruing for the ghost names will no longer be there, and there will be a uniform kind of a salary across the table for all workers at state level, irrespective of where you are working, and the allowances too will be uniform too, just as it is happening with the federal workers, where the IPPIS is being used to capture all the workers. I believe probably the government will also be thinking of using the IPPIS at state level. And if that happens, of course, it will take a lot of burden away from the state governments. But again, the state governors, will they let that juicy aspect of revenue coming to the state to let go just like that?
But the function of the state government, is it just payment of salary? Do they have other functions?
No, there are other functions. Development at state level is their part of their statutory functions. Of course, you have current expenditure, you have recurrent expenditure, and of course, payment of salaries, allowances to workers. Mostly these are recurrent expenditures that will always be taken care of by state government. Then you also have allocations that are coming that are meant for projects, and this also have to be taken care of by the state government. So what the federal government is thinking probably is to take away the payment of salaries from the state, so that sitting governors will have enough time and enough energy to concentrate on development of their various states, rather than always being at loggerhead with either the labor union or thinking of where to mop up money to make up for what they are going to pay salaries. You can see at the moment some states can't even pay salaries until they are until they borrow money from the banks. Some of them have to go through overdrafts to be able to pay salaries. Some of them have to wait until month end when they borrow from the banks through overdraft and then pay salaries. So probably if the federal government decides to take away this from the state, sitting governors will have less to think of when it comes to salaries as well as wages and allowances of workers. They will be able to concentrate more on physical projects and how to settle all of those projects, including generating funding for all of their projects, maybe through development partners, through counterpart fundings, and so many other aspects of generating revenue that will help them to execute some of their projects.
Policy said usually it might work for the benefits that this policy is targeted. But do you think the organized labor will allow this policy to work if the government finally take over the payment of salary?
Well, it is not a constitutional thing that this is who is responsible for the payment of this. The government is responsible for the payment of salaries, whether at federal or states. And if the federal government that has the statutory function of payment of salaries of all workers, not just federal workers, but all workers in Nigeria, decide that this is how we want to go about payment of salaries. Of course, all the labor union could do is to ensure that they monitor it and ensure that the average Nigerian worker is not shortchanged. The welfare of the Nigerian worker is not being tampered with, and to ensure that workers are being paid as at when due. Those are also part of the primary functions of labor unions, and it is not about who is supposed to pay this salary and who is not supposed to pay that. When we had the joint account, of course the joint account came in, and it was not a constitutional thing, it was an act of the assembly, and the labor union accepted it. So if this comes up as also an act of the National Assembly, for example, and it is being backed by the law, of course the labor union will have no any choice than to accept that, in as much as it is not going to tamper with the welfare of the workers, in as much as it is going to ensure the prompt payment of salaries to workers, and so long as the federal government feels that that is much more comfortable than allowing sitting governors to control salaries of workers. I believe that it's a lofty idea, but again, we have to also sit down and see how the federal government went about articulating this proposal and also coming with a very good template that will help in ensuring smooth implementation of the project, of the policy.
The Nigerian worker, as usual, will always demand more coming from the authorities. If the federal government decided to take over the payment of salary, what would be the fate of the Remember, currently even the federal workers, sometimes you find out that their payment is delayed.
Yes, payment have to be delayed because of irregular flow of revenue in Nigeria. I said irregular because revenue flow in Nigeria characterized by so many misdemeanors, ranging from corruption, ranging from embezzlement, and so many other saboteuring efforts of a lot of Nigerians, and that has made the flow of revenue to be very irregular. And you realize that most of the revenue generating agencies are not remitting on regular basis. They remit when they are able to get enough. They remit at their own comfort. Hence, the federal government is always cap in hand, looking for money, mopping up money here and there to ensure that they are able to gather enough to pay salaries. Like you have said, salaries are not being paid regularly again on a monthly basis. This is the fact, because the federal government is not able to raise the requisite amount of money that should have been used for payment of salaries. Sometimes when there is a Federal Allocation Committee meeting, popularly known as FAC, and certain figures were being declared as being shared among federal, state, and local government, a lot of people will assume that in the next 24 hours, those money should be available for state, for local government, for federal government. No, these are projected monies. These are projected monies that may have been realized in the preceding month. But that projected money is yet to be complete in the government coffers. The money is trickling in gradually. So by the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, it is assumed that more than 75% of that money has already gone into the coffers of the Federation. Hence, it is time to declare that money. And in the few days that will come, the rest of the 25% will have come in. And that is why you see some delays in the payment of salaries. When this money trickle in gradually, some states will go ahead and look for money elsewhere to augment and pay salaries before the allocation comes in. When the allocation comes in, they pay back. So some state governors will go to making an overdraft in the official bank that is responsible for payment of salaries. And then when the allocation comes in, the official bank deduct whatever is accruing to it, and then the rest is remitted into the coffers of the government. So it's the same thing. When they are a FAC, you don't expect that money is available. No, the money is a projected money that may have been realized in the preceding month, not even in the current month. Like for example, when they had the FAC meeting, I think sometimes on the 21st of this month, you can see it is a revenue that was generated in February, not in this March. So even in that February, not all the money has already been realized in the account of the government, but it's a projected money, and that money will come in because sales and all other transactions have already been made, and it's assumed that it is only a matter of time that amount of money will go into government coffers. So the projection is that this amount of money has been realized, and then let it be shared among federal, state, and local government. So as the money trickles in, that is how federal, state, and local government are being reimbursed. So in the next few days, 3, 4, 5 days, you see the rest of the money trickling in, and then by month end, the whole money may have trickled in. So instead, where they pay their salaries promptly, maybe 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, the government will have to borrow. And then pay salaries. When the money comes in, the bank deducts whatever is accruing. in some states where they pay at the end of the month, it's good and fine. By that time, the money may have come in, and then they deduct whatever they could deduct for salaries, and then the rest are being used for capital expenditure. So it's the same thing everywhere. The federal government usually wait until when the whole of the money comes in, and then whatever is salaries for federal workers is now being taken into accounts of various entities. Because even MDAs don't receive salaries at the same time. Some will receive theirs this week, some others will have to wait until the middle of the month. So these are all part of the system, and it's the same thing everywhere. In most Senate claims where they have more money in their coffers, they have reserves in their coffers. They use the reserves to pay salaries because they knew that the allocation will come in anytime. So even when the allocation will come in, it will only come in and be part of the reserves for next month. So even in the 1980s and 1990s, states usually have reserves during the military era. They have reserves, and anytime the need arises for payment of salaries, they can pay salaries even without allocation coming from the federal government. I believe 1 or 2, 3 or 4 states in Nigeria currently are doing that. Lagos State is one of them, Kano State is another, and even River State. All these states can pay salaries without allocation coming from the federal government. So these are some of the situations that the federal government is trying to run away from. Hence, it wants to ensure that there is a uniform payment of salaries from federal to states and probably local government workers.
How does the new minimum wage have an impact in this takeover of the federal government from the state government?
Well, definitely it will have an impact. We continue to show encomiums on the new minimum wage committee that sat down and are still trying to clean some of the grey areas of their negotiations with the Nigerian Labour Congress. They look at the new minimum wage in recognition of the GDP of Nigeria, what the country is realizing as revenue, and then